Howdy y'all! This is the second part of my small series of videos, or rather one very long video that I'm breaking up into parts, on the Caped Crusaders' first year of comics. Forgive me for not making much of an intro on this one. Let's just jump right into Detective Comics number 32. The Batman takes down a horse-drawn carriage with another one of his gas pellets. Expecting to find the monk inside, he's surprised to see a woman instead. Now, why did the Batman follow this one carriage specifically? What made him think the monk would be inside? Never explained. The last comic ends with him flying to Hungary, and this one starts off with him chasing down this stagecoach. If I had to guess, he spotted her red dress from the outside and thought it was the monk's robe and was just willing to take a risk on it. Finding it strange that the woman would be traveling by herself late at night, he takes her back to his hotel, putting her in the same room as his fiancée. Cause when you're a vigilante, you can arrest whoever you want with as little evidence as possible. My name is Della. I seem to have been kidnapped by your friend here. That is correct, ma'am. However, the Batman is proven correct, because of course he is, when Dalla walks out of the room late at night and smashes him on the back of the head with what I can only assume to be an Academy Award. Am I really gonna make a Will Smith slapping Chris Rock joke so many years after it happened? Of course I am! Oh, wow! The stunned Batman staggers over to Julie's room to check on her and discovers vampire bite marks on her neck. Dela is a vampire. Okay. You know, it's a shame Batman didn't have Alfred with him at this point in the comics. I've heard he's had experience fighting vampires. Batman jumps into action, stopping Dela outside. Dela begs before the Batman, saying that she'll show him where the monk is if he promises to kill him for her. The two soon depart, flying over the countryside, only for the Batplane to be caught in a massive net. Dela having led the Batman right into the monk's trap. Once on the ground, the monk uses his hypnotic powers to paralyze the Batman, and calls forth Julie to come to the castle as well. The monk taunting Bruce, saying that his fiancée will be turned into a werewolf. Before the Batman's very eyes, the monk transforms into a wolf, and then howls to attract other wolves so that the Caped Crusader will be mauled to death. The monk pushes the Caped Crusader into the wolf's den. The Batman, finally breaking free from the monk's hypnosis, tosses gas pellets at the wolves to hold them back as he tries to think of a way to escape. Using his wits, he ties his batarang to the end of one of his silk ropes, and then lassos himself out from the dangerous pit. Quick to get his revenge, the Batman melts a silver statue with a candlestick. I was about to call BS on this part, but apparently it's entirely possible to melt silver with a candle. So, shows you what I know. He smelts the silver into 2 bullets, for only a silver bullet may kill a vampire.
You're a little confused, but he got the spirit.
Batman loads the silver bullets into a pistol, which I guess he just had on him this entire time, and then goes to find the location of the sleeping vampires. He shoots them down while they sleep the day away in their coffins, breaking the spell and freeing Julie from the monk's influence. With the threat now gone, the two are now free to live happily ever after. She is never seen again. Finis. Okay, so a few things here. First off, are these two vampires or are they werewolves? I know the lore behind the two creatures has always been a little loosey-goosey, and Dracula himself was able to transform into a wolf in his novel. But the line, only a silver bullet may kill a vampire, is really bugging me. Like, just change vampire to werewolf and it'd be okay, but nope. Also, what was the monk's plan here? Was his goal this entire time to transform Julie into a werewolf and have her live with him in Hungary? Why? She lived in New York. How were you even aware of her existence? This isn't like in Dracula where the Count grew infatuated with Mina from a picture that Jonathan Harker carried on him. There is literally no way you could have found out who Julie was before this plan was set into motion. Speaking of Dracula, this two-parter definitely took some inspiration from Bram Stoker's novel. The monk's hypnotic power making people do things against their will? Check. The heroes traveling from their home in the big city to a faraway country to take down the evil threat. Check. Killing said evil threat, which releases your loved one from under its spell. Check. And of course the fact that, both are vampires. Kinda. And stepping aside from all of that, let's jump back to Detective Comics number 31 for a second. This artwork here is pretty iconic. I'm sure you've seen it around before. It's used on the cover for the Golden Age of Detective Comics. The Golden Age of Detective Comics comics. The very volume I'm reading from right now has cover art that's an obvious homage to this very issue. And I find it a little funny because all of the past times I've seen this, I've always assumed that the castle here was like a super early version of Wayne Manor. So finding out that it was the castle of a villain that nobody remembers was honestly kind of surprising. To be fair though, most versions of this art I've seen in the past have cut out the Klansman in the bottom left corner, so there's that. And one last thing. Remember way back at the start of Detective Comics number 31 where the Batman saved the man from the possessed Julie by pulling him up to the top of a telephone pole? Yeah, he never got him back down, so I like to think that he's still stuck there to this very day. Detective Comics number 33. The start of this comic takes us back in time and shows us the very first depiction of Bruce's parents being shot down in a dark alley. The first of many depictions of his parents being killed. At the end of the flashback, Bruce is struggling to decide what his superhero persona should be, trying to think of something that would strike fear into every criminal he comes across. And then, almost as if by providence, a bat flies in through the window. Deciding right then and there to adopt the look of the winged creature, he becomes the dreaded Batman. Wait a minute. Jumping back to present day, a large red blimp shoots down red lasers that tear down entire buildings, reducing downtown Manhattan to rubble. A message calls out from the blimp, telling people to surrender to the sacred horde, or face their wrath. Bruce Wayne helps people in the rubble, and it's on this day that he vows to kill Superman. Wait. Wrong story. After helping with rescue work, Bruce goes back to his manor to look through some secret files he has in a hidden laboratory. He reads up on a professor, Karl Kruger, a man who was recently released from a mental asylum, although, more importantly, had also started work on a certain type of death ray. Bruce, dressed as the Batman, decides to pay Kruger a visit. Spying through the professor's window, he finds the man taking charge of a whole gang of evildoers. The group discussing their plans for further destruction. Karl Kruger modeling himself after Napoleon Bonaparte, fantasizing about being ruler of the world. Okay, so I think there is an actual objective mistake here. Batman is on the ground and he uses his lasso to reach the top of the house so that he can spy on the rest through the window. And as he's looking, he says to himself, thinks he's Napoleon. Except, I just lied to you. He doesn't say that here, he says that while he's still on the ground and can't see inside. Like, I'm not wrong, am I? The speech bubble was supposed to go here, right? Anyway, the Batman breaks inside, attempting to stop the wannabe dictator before he can cause any more destruction. However, Karl's henchmen knock him out and restrain him with ropes. Karl sets off a bomb, intending on the Cape Crusader to be killed in the blast. However, the Batman is able to free himself from the ropes and escapes the house just in the nick of time. The next day, the Batman follows one of Karl's henchmen to his secret base. The Batman breaks inside, destroying some of the death ray machines and attempting to destroy the blimp with an axe. I don't know why he wouldn't use his gun from earlier, but to each his own. However, before he's able to make a swing at it, Kruger shoots him from behind, knocking him down to the floor. Karl tells a nearby guard to watch the Batman so that he can get one of the remaining death ray machines. The wannabe dictator returns and destroys the Batman, only for it to be revealed that Bruce had swapped places with the guard in the short window of time that Karl was getting the death ray machine. Is Is this where Halloween Resurrection got the idea from? Also, you just gotta love the logic here. I just shot Batman with the pistol I am holding in my hand. I could just shoot him again with the very same pistol, or I could tell my nearby guard to shoot him with his rifle, but nah, I'll waste time and drag a bulky spotlight over to do the job instead. That is some real James Bond level stuff right there. Which is weird to say because this predates the Bond films by over 20 years and the Bond books by over 10 years, but I digress. After escaping, it's revealed that Bruce survived because of a bulletproof vest he was wearing. An addition to his outfit I can assume was added sometime after issue 29. Back in his laboratory, he creates a chemical that will make his Batplane immune to the blimp's death ray. How does he know how to do this, you may ask? The next day, he takes to the sky, crashing his Batplane into the blimp to take it down, though not before the evil professor makes a getaway in a much smaller fighter plane. The Batman, now falling through the air in a parachute, uses his lasso to reach Karl Kruger. Once on the wing of the professor's plane, he tosses one of his gas pellets at the wannabe dictator, making him crash down into the waters below, permanently ending his reign of terror. Detective Comics number 34. This comic starts right off with a note that shows it was published out of order. The opening line tells the reader that the Batman had sent Julie back home after rescuing her from the sinister monk. So yeah, these two issues got swapped for whatever reason. Just keep in mind that the plot of this story takes place entirely in France, and Bruce, like any rational person, is trying to get out of the country. Though while leaving his hotel room, he runs across a man with no face. That's mighty queer. A man without a face. That is an understatement. Did you just get lazy? Did you just not want to bother with drawing a face for this guy? Kane! Anyway, later in the day, Bruce also happens to run into a woman who's having threats on her life by some unseen foe. The faceless man walks back onto the scene, revealing himself as the woman's brother. He explains what's going on, telling Bruce that the two are being hunted down by Mr. Doherty?
Duke d'Ortier.
In the past, it was he who had burned off the man's face, presumably being very surprised that it didn't just kill him outright. Seriously though, how do you breathe? Bruce, after hearing their plight, leaves the hotel room only for the Batman to return in his place. The two frightened people, not able to put two and two together, tell the Caped Crusader how to reach
Duke d'Ortier.
Following the faceless man's instructions, the Batman quickly heads out at You have gotta be kidding me! Kane! Anyway, the Batman quickly enters the sewers to get after
Duke d'Ortier.
He's soon captured by the mad Frenchman, however, and is tied to a massive grain wheel, spinning round and round rapidly to be killed by centrifugal force. Using his strength, the Batman breaks free from his restraints and jumps forward into a ceiling door into a garden filled with flowers that have human faces. What in God's name? The Frenchman calls forth his henchmen to capture the two from earlier. The Batman, following the advice of one of the flowers, I can't believe I just said that, finds the room's exit, walking into the wheel room once again to see the faceless man spinning to his death, screaming out for help. How? Harlan Ellison went over this already. You have no mouth. You should not be able to scream. Anyway, Batman saves the impossible man from sure death and then takes to the skies to follow after
Duke d'Ortier,
who's trying to make an escape with the woman from earlier. Batman jumps down to the car and, with the help of the restrained woman, makes the man drive right off the cliffside, plummeting to his death. The Batman returns the woman to her faceless brother, telling them au revoir as he heads off on his next mission. This was easily the weirdest one yet. Yeah, the vampire storyline was a little odd, but at least it made sense in the context of the supernatural. Here though, you have a faceless man and face full of flowers like it's just your average Tuesday. Is this just the powers that French people have? I still don't know what the flowers were about. I get that they're supposed to be victims of the Frenchmen, But how in God's green graces did he supposedly do this? Yeah, the faceless thing is stupid, but at least the comic tried to give an explanation for it. The flowers appear right out of the blue and leave just as quickly. They're not even important to the story. Sure, they tell Batman where the exit is, but I think he could have found that without them. Does this qualify as a big-lipped alligator moment? Detective Comics number 35. This was the first Batman comic published in the 1940s, and on the cover we have what's clearly supposed to be the
Duke d'Ortier,
even though he's not in this issue. How strange. Anyway, the comic itself immediately starts out with an illustration of Batman with a gun. It's unrelated to the rest of the story, but I love it. I would unironically hang this on my wall if it were a poster. Diving into the plot itself, an explorer named Sheldon Lennox sells a ruby Hindu statue to a private collector, only for said collector to receive a death threat just a few days later. The Hindus who own the statue in the first place telling him to give it back or else. The police are called to action, millionaire socialite Bruce Wayne coming along as well. Why not? Hindu idol worshippers, death notes. They head off to the streets, only to see that the Hindus have already kidnapped Sheldon Lennox, the one that had taken their statue in the first place. The police chase after them, only to watch in horror as the Hindus kill the explorer and toss his body into the river as they ride off into the night. The murder headlines newspapers the following day, the articles also making mention of the ruby statue at the center of the whole affair, arousing the interest of some neighborhood thugs. The Batman, sensing that something is about to happen, suits up and heads over to the private collector's estate in the middle of the night, only to find a group of gangsters already robbing the place. He makes quick work of the wannabe thieves, though right when everything seems to be going his way, a massive group of Hindus break into the scene and momentarily overpower the Caped Crusader. They steal back the ruby statue and flee right before the cops arrive. The Batman quickly escapes from the police as well, and chases down after the Hindu's car in his souped-up sedan, following them all the way to a pawn shop in the middle of Chinatown. Inside, he meets the owner, an Oriental man, the comic's words not mine, named Sin Fang. Fang plays dumb, saying that he has no idea that the statue was stolen and will happily return it to the private collector. Following Sin Fang to the back of the building, the Batman overcomes near-fatal obstacles that the broker throws his way, overpowering sword-wielding madman and using one of his glass vials to clear out poisonous gas before it has a chance to kill him. It's actually kind of funny because Fang acts like both moments were accidents, and Batman goes along with what he says. Not because he believes him, obviously, but because he's trying to get to the bottom of the case and kinda needs to follow Kane to see where the statue is. Hey man, I just got through two very obvious death traps back there. Seriously, you should try to be more subtle, but I'm sure they were just accidents on your part, so still gonna let me see that ruby statue? Right. In the third room, a trapdoor opens up beneath the Caped Crusader's feet. Using his cat-like reflexes, he's able to catch a drainage pipe on the way down, and heave himself back up to safety. He then sneaks into Sin Fang's room just as the man is taking off a disguise, revealing himself to be Sheldon Lennox the entire time. Lennox setting up the whole ruse to steal the ruby statue for a big payday. Wait, but the thing started out in your possession. You sold it to the private collector in the first place. You could have just not done that. Why did you do any of this? And oh my lord, he has a gun! Batman, using some delicious irony, picks up the ruby statue and chucks it at Sheldon's head, which knocks him out of the window and sends him falling down to a gruesome death on the pavement several stories below, undoubtedly giving Bruce Wayne violent flashbacks of his parents' killing. Detective Comics number 36. The Batman, perched on a rooftop during his nightly rounds, watches as a man is shot down in the middle of the street. Robert Kane showing some real restraint by not reusing this drawing for a fourth time. The Caped Crusader springs into action, comforting the dying man in his final moments as he says the words, "Fog, fog, strange, fog, strange." The Caped Crusader takes the notebook from the man's pocket, and then escapes as the police arrive to the scene. Later that night, Bruce Wayne comes to the realization that the dying man was trying to say the name of Professor Hugo Strange. Yep, this comic marks the first ever appearance of the mad scientist himself, a man who would later discover Batman's secret identity, and it's almost comical how little his look has changed over time. Hey, whether you like it or not, this is peak character design. Okay, getting back to the comic, Bruce reads through the notebook that he had stolen from the murder scene earlier, and discovers that the killed man was a member of the FBI, and also finds a list of banks written down. Later in the evening, a dense fog washes over the entire town, which remains for several nights in a row. During this time, thugs robbed several banks in the area, slipping into the night without a trace thanks to the dense fog. Bruce, listening to the news on his radio, notices that the banks were robbed in the same order as the list on the FBI's notebook. With this in mind, he decides to suit up and wait for the thugs at their next hit point. Taking them by surprise, he's able to overpower all of the criminals. I just want to take a moment to really appreciate this panel. I love it. It pops off the page in a way that's truly dynamic. Satisfied with his work, the Caped Crusader leaves the knocked out thugs to the police. The following night, he heads over to the gang's next hit point, only to walk right into a trap laid out for him by the evil professor. A fight breaks out, the Caped Crusader doing his best to take down as many men as possible, only for a blow to the back of the head to knock him out cold. He's then restrained and taken to Hugo Strange. The mad scientist hangs the Batman up and starts whipping him with a lash. The Batman, using all of his might, breaks free from the rope binding his hands and takes down the professor with a few hearty blows, after which he turns off the machine that had coated the city in the dense fog, temporarily putting a stop to Hugo Strange's reign of terror. Detective Comics number 37. Riding down a lone dirt road in a car that's getting closer to the Batmobile but still not quite there yet, Batman hears a blood-curdling scream coming from a nearby house. Stopping to investigate, he enters the dwelling to find a group of gangsters torturing a poor defenseless man. The Batman swings into action, beating up the thugs and freeing their victim, only for the tortured man, named Joey, to knock the Batman out with a blow to the back of the head, and gun down the rest inside of the house, only sparing the Batman's life because he had saved his. Later, the Batman wakes up to the sea of dead men around him. Holy Christ! That's one heck of a cold opening. Using his detective skills, he's able to track down Joey to a grocery store in a deserted part of town. Sneaking in later as the Batman, he infiltrates a gang meeting that Joey is right smack dab in the middle of, the head of the gang being a man named Ellis Turg. The Caped Crusader turns off the lights and beats up the thugs in the dark, but not without calling Joey out by name first. Later, with the lights back on, the remaining men kill Joey on the spot, believing that he had told the Batman where their secret headquarters were, after which they discuss their evil plan, sure of the fact that the Caped Crusader is already trying to put a stop to their scheme. They rush out of the room, leaving Joey to die alone, only for it to be revealed that Batman actually hadn't left the room and had listened to the thugs' every word. The Caped Crusader comforts Joey in his final moments. With his final breath, he tells Batman what the gangsters have planned. They're going to blow up a ship transporting foreign goods, hoping to cause an all-out war. Joey had tried to put a stop to them himself, which was why he was being tortured in the first place. Batman assures him that he'll put a stop to their plans, and with that, Joey dies in Bruce's arms. So, can we just take a step back for a minute to acknowledge the fact that Batman just kinda killed this man? Why would you call him out by name in the first place? Either you're incredibly dumb or you hope that they would turn on him, which is really messed up. You didn't have to get this guy killed to find out the next part of their evil plan. This has gotta be one of the most morally gray things I've ever seen the Batman do, and I kinda like it. I'm so used to Batman being depicted as as an outright hero that's seen him act more as an anti-hero is oddly interesting, even if it is pretty out of character for him even in this era of the comics. Getting back to the plot, later that night, the Batman jumps into action, and after a brief swim with the fishes, he successfully foils the wannabe saboteur's plans, steering a boat full of explosives out of the way of a massive cargo ship mere seconds before the two vessels would have crashed into each other. After the close shave, the Batman decides to pay a visit to the mastermind behind the whole ordeal. Something new? Butler's carrying guns. Oh, just you wait, buddy. After dealing with the help, he goes to deal with Turg. After a small tussle, the Cape Crusader socks the man in the jaw, which makes him fall backwards into a sword, the blade stabbing him in the back of the neck. What's this comic's deal? Was Robert Kane just in a mood when he wrote? Was Robert Kane just in a mood when he told his ghostwriters what to do for this comic? Assuming he even had that much involvement with the series at this point. Anyway, the preview on the final panel promises that the next comic will feature the Cape Crusader going against a herd of giants in Metropolis. I suppose now would be a good time to tell you that Gotham doesn't get name dropped until Batman number 4. Names aside though, I'm hyped to read about some huge, terrifying man monsters in the next episode of T.Rek.Reviews. So, yeah, like I mentioned at the end of my last upload, I had originally intended for the first year of Batman comics to be one long video. The problem is, it takes a long time to edit one long video. So I've decided to split it into parts for now, with the idea of hopefully releasing it as one big video sometime in the future. And I decided to end this part on issue 37 because that comic represents an end to the era for the Cape Crusader. If you know your Batman history, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but if you don't, stay tuned for part 3 to find out. Or, you know, just Google Detective Comics number 38. You may find out quicker that way. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing so that there might be a slim chance that YouTube will actually show you part 3 when that video eventually comes out. And of course, if you haven't seen part 1 yet, please consider giving that one a watch as well. And to all of the people out there that have already watched part 1, thank you. It's genuinely hard for me to comprehend the fact that very nearly 300 people have subscribed to me since my last upload. At the end of the first part, I shut off my subscriber count and I only had 451 subscribers. A number Ray Bradbury would be proud of. And then I blinked and boom! 749! Unbelievable. That high number is thanks to viewers like you. Thank you. Okay, so without anything more to really say, thank y'all for watching all the way to the end, and until next time, goodbye y'all. Oh wait, one last thing. I know Julie Madison appears in later comics. I actually plan on talking about her later in part 3. So if you already left a comment correcting me about saying that she's never seen again, ha!